Good evening, and welcome to Deep Sleep Science. Tonight, we explore something your body understands deeply, but your waking mind struggles to accept. Each night, ancient circuits within your nervous system make a quiet calculation about whether you are safe enough to truly rest. When stress lingers in your thoughts, those circuits choose vigilance over restoration. Together, we will trace why this happens and discover how your body can gently learn to let go. There is no need to focus closely on what follows. These observations about the sleeping mind are offered like smooth stones placed along the shore of a still lake. If your attention drifts, let it drift. If sleep arrives before we finish, that may be the most beautiful response of all. You may receive these words however your body wishes tonight. This peaceful exploration reaches further when shared softly. A gentle subscribe or like opens the door for another weary mind to find rest here. One quiet moment, one resting soul at a time. Settle into wherever you are now. Let the pillow hold your head more completely. Perhaps your breathing has already begun to slow, finding its rhythm without instruction. Allow the weight of the day to thin and scatter, like mist clearing over a quiet lake at dawn, revealing something perfectly still underneath. And now, we begin. One of the gentlest discoveries about restoring sleep is that struggling against wakefulness deepens it. When your mind becomes anxious about not sleeping, that anxiety creates another wave of arousal, another reason for the nervous system to stay alert. Researchers studying acceptance-based approaches find that releasing the desperate need to fall asleep shifts something measurable in your physiology. The performance pressure dissolves, and cortisol, that was maintaining vigilance, begins to ease. Caring less urgently about whether sleep arrives often clears the path for rest to come on its own terms, like a wild bird that lands only when you stop reaching for it. Sleep settles most easily upon a mind that has stopped grasping. Stress-related sleep loss is not a single problem with a single remedy. It unfolds across multiple biological pathways, and each person's particular pattern of disruption differs. For one individual, the primary barrier may be cognitive, persistent worry keeping the default mode network active well past midnight. For another, it may be physiological, elevated muscle tension or disrupted temperature regulation that the body cannot resolve alone. Effective recovery often involves exploring several gentle approaches and noticing which produces the clearest shift in how morning feels. The path is personal, discovered through patient experimentation rather than rigid prescription. Like finding a particular key that fits a lock only your body recognizes. Whether your body naturally gravitates toward early morning alertness or late evening wakefulness shapes when deep sleep most readily appears. And working against this tendency diminishes its quality. Chronotype is partly written in your genes. Quiet, influencing when melatonin rises and when core temperature reaches its overnight low. Forcing an evening-oriented person into an early schedule compresses deep sleep, even when total hours remain adequate. Aligning your sleep window with your biological tendency allows slow-wave sleep to unfold at its natural time and in its fullest expression. The adjustment may be modest, perhaps 30 or 45 minutes, but the effect on restoration can be remarkably large, like planting in the right season rather than forcing a bloom out of time. Scientists have discovered that carefully timed quiet tones, synchronized to the slow brainwaves already present during sleep, can gently amplify those rhythms without waking the sleeper. This acoustic approach does not manufacture artificial rest. It nudges the brain to sustain the deep oscillations it already produces, strengthening rhythms that stress has weakened. Early research shows enhanced slow-wave activity, improved morning memory, and more restorative sleep in participants receiving precisely timed sounds during their deepest stages. As this technology matures and becomes accessible, it may offer a way to help the brain remember how to maintain its deepest rhythms, even under pressure. Like a hand steadying a pendulum that had begun to waver in its arc. The natural variation between consecutive heartbeats, called heart rate variability, reveals how readily your nervous system shifts between alertness and rest. Higher variability suggests a parasympathetic system that engages easily, a body that transitions smoothly toward restoration. Biofeedback devices now allow people to observe this variability in real time, learning which breathing patterns and mental states strengthen their capacity for calm. Regular practice gradually trains the autonomic system to find rest more readily each night. Research links consistent HRV training with reduced stress levels and increased time in deep sleep, like strengthening a muscle that had grown weak from disuse. The capacity returns with patient repetition. When months of fragmented sleep have taught the brain to associate bed with wakefulness and frustration, a counterintuitive approach sometimes helps restore what was lost. Temporarily limiting time in bed to match actual sleep time concentrates adenosine-driven sleep pressure into a shorter window. After several nights of compressed opportunity, when the window is gradually expanded, deep sleep often rebounds with surprising intensity. The brain rediscovers its appetite for slow, restorative waves. This approach requires careful guidance and is not suitable for everyone, but it demonstrates something hopeful, that sleep architecture is not permanently fixed, like clearing tangled overgrowth to reveal the original path that was always underneath. Systematically inviting muscle groups to tense and then release provides direct sensory evidence to the brain that the body is safe. This practice interrupts the feedback loop where persistent physical tension signals continued threat to the sleeping mind. When muscles soften deliberately, the brain receives unmistakable information that vigilance can decrease. Studies confirm that people who practice this before bed maintain lower muscle tone throughout the night and spend measurably more time in deep sleep stages. The beauty lies in its simplicity, requiring nothing but your own body and a few minutes of quiet attention. Like convincing a clenched fist to open, finger by finger, until the hand lies soft and still. What you consume during the day quietly shapes the terrain your brain encounters at nightfall. Magnesium, found in leafy greens, almonds, and whole grains, supports GABA function and appears especially relevant for deep sleep. Chronic stress depletes magnesium reserves, creating a deficiency that further impairs the brain's ability to quiet itself for rest. Tryptophan-rich foods consumed with gentle carbohydrates in the evening provide building blocks for serotonin and melatonin synthesis. Avoiding caffeine after early afternoon, limiting alcohol near bedtime, and choosing lighter evening meals all help preserve the delicate architecture of slow-wave sleep. Like soil nourishing roots that in turn hold the soil steady through every season. Patterns of light throughout the day powerfully shape both circadian rhythms and nighttime stress hormones. Morning bright light, especially natural sunlight, anchors your internal clock and encourages cortisol to follow its healthy daytime rhythm, rising with dawn and declining through the afternoon. Evening blue-rich light from screens delays melatonin release and can keep nighttime cortisol inappropriately elevated. Research shows that people maintaining careful light habits, bright mornings, dim evenings, and full darkness during sleep, improved their deep sleep meaningfully, even without addressing other stressors. Light may be among the most underused tools for gently resetting the biological systems connecting stress to sleep, like adjusting a dimmer, gradually guiding the room from brightness to shadow. Slow, deep breathing at 4 to 6 cycles per minute directly shifts autonomic balance toward rest. This deliberate rhythm stimulates the vagus nerve, signaling safety to the brain and promoting parasympathetic dominance, practiced for 10 to 20 minutes before bed. This pattern measurably reduces circulating cortisol and increases subsequent deep sleep time. The effect is immediate and detectable on monitoring equipment. Unlike many interventions, controlled breathing requires no technology, no cost, and no preparation. It is always available, as close as your next exhale. Like a tide, you consciously slow, bringing the entire shoreline of your nervous system to stillness. The presence of trusted others communicates safety to the nervous system at a level deeper than words can reach. Oxytocin, released through warm physical contact, directly counteracts cortisol and promotes parasympathetic activation. Studies show that even simple contact during sleep, a hand resting against an arm or feet touching beneath sheets, correlates with increased deep sleep for both individuals. This need for proximity during sleep stretches through human evolution, when sleeping alone meant sleeping unprotected. Even a pet settled warmly against your body can shift the ancient calculations your nervous system makes about safety after dark, like embers that warm more steadily when gathered close together. Because the body must cool to enter deep sleep, deliberately supporting this natural temperature drop offers a surprisingly effective path around stress-related disruption. A warm bath, approximately 90 minutes before bed, triggers compensatory cooling that creates conditions favorable for slow-wave sleep. Maintaining bedroom temperature around 65 to 68 degrees helps the overnight cooling curve. Breathable bedding dissipates excess warmth that elevated cortisol and sympathetic activation generate. Research suggests people who optimize their sleep temperature gained measurably more deep sleep even without addressing stress directly. Like opening a window on a warm evening, sometimes the simplest gesture brings the deepest relief. Regular physical movement affects the stress-sleep relationship through pathways unfolding over both hours and months. Moderate aerobic activity helps regulate the HPA axis, reduces circulating anxiety markers, and deepens slow-wave sleep. However, timing matters considerably. Vigorous exercise within 3 hours of bedtime can raise core temperature and cortisol, counteracting the conditions deep sleep requires. Late afternoon or early evening appears optimal, enhancing that night's deep sleep while building broader resilience with each passing week. Like tending a garden in the right season, the same effort yields different results depending on when it is applied. Present moment awareness practices reshape how the brain responds to stress before it can fully activate sleep-disrupting pathways. Practitioners show that the default mode network, associated with worry and mental wandering, quiets more readily during pre-sleep periods. The amygdala shows reduced reactivity. The parasympathetic nervous system engages with less resistance. As little as 8 weeks of consistent mindfulness practice has been shown to increase slow-wave sleep in previously poor sleepers. Mindfulness creates a quiet buffer between stressful thoughts and the body's emergency response, allowing the mind to observe worry without being consumed by it, like watching rain through a window rather than standing in it. A structured approach called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia works not by treating stress directly, but by reshaping the mental habits that transform stress into sleeplessness. It identifies catastrophic thoughts about sleep that amplify arousal and gently challenges them. It restructures cognitive patterns, keeping the mind spinning when the body needs stillness. Long-term studies show this approach increases deep sleep more effectively than medication, with improvements persisting well after treatment ends. The brain essentially relearns how to approach nighttime, replacing vigilance with quiet trust. Like replacing a compass that had been pointing toward danger, the mind rediscovers the direction of rest. Not everyone loses deep sleep equally under stress. Some individuals maintain remarkably stable, slow-wave sleep even during intense pressure. And studying these resilient sleepers offers clues about what protects rest. Researchers find several consistent patterns. Resilient sleepers tend to have stronger baseline parasympathetic tone. They demonstrate better emotional regulation, particularly the ability to mentally distance themselves from worries as bedtime approaches. They maintain regular sleep-wake schedules, even when life becomes chaotic. These findings suggest that resilience to stress-related sleep loss is partly innate, but substantially learnable. Like learning to float. The body already knows how. It simply needs permission to stop struggling. Your vagus nerve runs from brainstem through throat, heart, and abdomen, continuously reporting whether conditions are calm or threatening. Strong vagal tone acts as a natural shield against stress-related sleep disruption. People with higher vagal tone transition more easily from wakefulness to deep sleep even after difficult days. Fortunately, vagal tone responds to gentle training. Humming, soft singing, cool water on the face, and slow exhalation all stimulate this nerve. Over weeks of practice, the nervous system's threshold for alarm rises, and the pathway to deep rest widens quietly, like a forest path growing clearer with each footstep. The way toward sleep becomes easier the more gently it is traveled. How you think about stress itself may change how stress affects your body at night. Research on stress mindsets reveals that people who perceive pressure as potentially useful rather than purely harmful show measurably different physiological responses. Their cortisol still rises when challenges appear, but returns to baseline faster. Their cardiovascular responses remain healthier. They report less disruption to their sleep. This reframing does not involve pretending pressure feels comfortable, but shifting the narrative from helpless suffering to active engagement. When the story changes, the body's chemical response changes with it, like turning a harsh spotlight into a warm lamp. The same energy illuminates differently. The brain's threat detection systems respond not only to real danger, but to vividly imagined scenarios, which is precisely why worry prevents sleep. This same neural sensitivity means deliberately imagining scenes of safety can actively shift your body toward relaxation. Guided imagery evoking floating on calm water, resting in a sun-warmed meadow, or drifting through gentle fog activates parasympathetic pathways and quiets the amygdala measurably. Neuroimaging confirms that during vivid, peaceful imagery, the body's autonomic balance shifts toward rest. Your imagination is not merely decorative. It is a biological lever. Like a lullaby, the mind sings to the body, shifting it gently towards surrender. Spending quiet minutes before rest reflecting on what went well, what felt warm, what felt enough, produces neurobiological changes that support sleep. This practice shifts attention from threat scanning to reward processing, activating brain regions associated with positive emotion while dimming vigilance. Consistent gratitude reflection reduces evening cortisol, supports serotonin production, and creates a mental state incompatible with hypervigilance. People who maintained this practice over weeks reported both lower perceived stress and greater time in slow-wave sleep. The practice works not by ignoring difficulty but by widening the lens to include what is also present. Like noticing stars that were always there once the clouds thin. Your sleeping space communicates with your nervous system in ways bypassing conscious awareness. Cool, gently circulating air tells the body that conditions favor the temperature drop deep sleep requires. Clean, soft bedding stimulates comfort receptors associated with protection. Visual order, the absence of clutter or visible reminders of unfinished tasks, reduces low-level vigilance that prevents full relaxation. Even white noise or nature sounds masking environmental disruptions contribute. The specific elements vary individually, but the principle holds. Your bedroom communicates either readiness for rest or unfinished business, and the nervous system listens carefully, like an animal choosing its den with ancient, wordless precision. Therapeutic approaches addressing unresolved experience often restore healthy sleep as a quiet secondary gift. When someone processes difficult memories through specialized trauma therapy, the nervous system gradually unlearns its pattern of constant threat detection. As emotional healing deepens, nighttime architecture shifts naturally. The amygdala quiets. The prefrontal cortex regains its regulatory connections. Slow-wave sleep returns in longer, more stable episodes. For some individuals, stress-related sleep disruption is less a sleep problem than an emotional one, and addressing the deeper wound allows rest to recover on its own terms, like a river flowing freely once the obstruction is gently cleared. Writing down tomorrow's concerns and unfinished thoughts before lying down appears to externalize the cognitive load that otherwise keeps the brain's planning systems active through the night. Studies show that people who spent 5 minutes writing a specific list for the following day fell asleep significantly faster than those who wrote about completed tasks. The act of transferring worries from mind to paper seems to signal the brain that these concerns have been safely stored outside consciousness. The mind receives quiet permission to release what it was holding so tightly, like setting down a heavy bag at the door before entering a quiet room. The relief is immediate and physical. Your nervous system constantly evaluates whether your environment signals safety or threat through an unconscious process called neuroception. Warm lighting, soft textures, familiar scents, rhythmic sounds, and the gentle weight of blankets all contribute to this assessment. When enough safety signals accumulate, the vagal brake engages more fully, and the nervous system permits deeper relaxation. Understanding this allows you to deliberately curate your pre-sleep experience, stacking quiet safety cues until your primitive brain reaches the threshold where deep unconsciousness feels permissible, like adding weights to one side of a scale until it gently tips toward rest. Meeting your body with gentleness rather than frustration creates the very conditions healing requires. Research shows that self-compassion practices, acknowledging difficulty without judgment. Reduce evening cortisol and sympathetic activation measurably. When you respond to sleeplessness with kindness rather than anger, you avoid generating the additional stress that harsh self-criticism produces. Your nervous system registers self-compassion as a safety signal. The inner voice softens, and with it, the muscles, the breathing, the vigilance. Recovery begins not with perfection but with patience toward yourself. Like warming frozen ground with steady sunlight rather than forcing seeds into ice. A practice sometimes called yogic sleep guides awareness systematically through each region of the body without requiring physical movement. This ancient technique, now validated through modern neuroscience, produces brainwave patterns remarkably similar to the threshold between wakefulness and deep sleep. Practitioners enter a state of consciousness that feels simultaneously present and profoundly relaxed, as though the mind hovers at the edge of surrender while remaining gently aware. Electroencephalography research shows that regular practice increases theta wave activity during pre-sleep periods and facilitates smoother transitions into delta-dominant slow-wave sleep. The body learns through patient repetition that systematic attention to physical sensation can replace the vigilant stress demands with a quiet curiosity that gently dissolves into rest. Unlike meditation that seeks alertness, this practice actively courts the border of unconsciousness, training the nervous system to cross that threshold more willingly each night, like a hand slowly tracing the outline of a map until the fingers grow heavy and the journey itself becomes a dream. Certain sound frequencies found abundantly in nature appear to synchronize with and strengthen the brain's slow oscillations during deep sleep. Pink noise, where lower frequencies carry proportionally more energy than higher ones, mirrors the acoustic signature of wind moving through forest canopy, gentle rainfall on a quiet roof, and distant ocean waves reaching shore. Research demonstrates that exposure to pink noise during sleep increases the amplitude of delta waves and improves memory consolidation the following morning. Unlike white noise, which primarily masks environmental disruption, pink noise actively participates in the brain's restorative rhythms, gently reinforcing oscillations that stress has weakened. Your sleeping brain recognizes these frequencies as deeply familiar, as though they belong to the environment where rest was first learned across millions of years of evolution under open skies and sheltering trees. The sounds do not need to be consciously heard to produce their effect. They work beneath awareness, speaking directly to the ancient auditory circuits that once monitored the forest for danger and now find in its sounds the deepest reassurance. Like a lullaby, the natural world has been singing long before language existed. The rhythm does not need to be understood to be profoundly calming. Maintaining consistent sleep and wake times, even on weekends and during periods of intense pressure, provides your circadian system with the regularity it requires to prepare for deep sleep in advance. When bedtime varies unpredictably, the brain cannot anticipate when to begin the preparatory cascade of melatonin release, temperature decline, and cortisol suppression that precedes slow-wave sleep. Research tracking individuals who maintained strict schedules versus those with variable timing found that schedule consistency predicted deep sleep duration more strongly than total time in bed. Even a difference of 30 minutes in nightly bedtime created measurable reductions in slow-wave sleep efficiency. The regularity itself becomes a safety signal, communicating to the nervous system that the world follows predictable patterns and that the vulnerability of deep unconsciousness will occur within a known, protected window each night. Your body begins preparing for sleep hours before you actually lie down, but only if it can predict when that moment will arrive. Like an animal returning to the same sheltered den each evening, the familiarity of routine communicates that rest is permitted here. And now, a moment of stillness. Feel the soft weight of your body pressing into wherever you rest. The mattress, the pillow, the blankets, all holding you without effort on your part. Notice your breathing, not to change it, simply to witness it. Each inhale arriving on its own, each exhale departing like a wave retreating from sand. Your hands may be warm, your eyelids heavy, your thoughts may have begun to blur at the edges, losing their sharpness, softening into something gentler. You are safe in this moment. Nothing requires your attention. Nothing demands your vigilance. Rest here for a breath, and then we continue, as gently as before. Perhaps one of the most quietly sobering discoveries about chronic deep sleep loss involves cellular aging itself. Deep sleep is when cells perform their most intensive repair, clearing damaged proteins and restoring structures that waking hours gradually wear down. When this maintenance is incomplete night after night, consequences accumulate at the molecular level. Telomeres, protective caps on chromosomes that naturally shorten with age, shorten measurably faster in people with persistent sleep deficiency. Epigenetic markers tracking biological aging show acceleration. Comparisons suggest chronic deep sleep loss may age cells by the equivalent of several years beyond your calendar age. Like a house whose foundation erodes silently when maintenance is neglected season after season. Deep sleep helps calibrate pain, processing through effects on endogenous opioid systems and inflammatory pathways. When slow-wave sleep is reduced, pain thresholds drop measurably. The same physical stimulus registers as more uncomfortable than it would after restorative rest. For those living with chronic pain, this creates a particularly difficult cycle. Pain generates stress. Stress diminishes deep sleep. Diminished deep sleep amplifies pain perception. Studies show that improving deep sleep sometimes produces pain reductions comparable to medication. The body's relationship with discomfort shifts with the quality of each night's restoration. Like a wound that heals more slowly when rest is withheld, but begins to mend once deep sleep returns. Even when people with chronically reduced deep sleep report feeling adequately alert during the day, careful measurement reveals quiet deficits. Reaction times slow. Complex decisions become less accurate. Creative thinking narrows. The capacity for sustained focus diminishes in ways standardized testing reliably captures. The subtle erosion often goes unnoticed because the person has lost the reference point of what normal performance feels like after genuinely restorative sleep. The mind believes it functions normally because it no longer remembers what normal truly felt like. Like a clock running slightly slow. The drift is invisible until compared against a reliable standard. Chronic deep sleep loss quietly reshapes your emotional life and the lives of those around you. Brain regions associated with empathy and emotional reading show diminished activity in sleep-deprived individuals. Irritability rises. Patience thins. The quiet capacity to give others the benefit of the doubt, a foundation of healthy relationships, erodes. Partners of chronically poor sleepers report higher conflict and lower satisfaction. One person's disrupted sleep can gradually alter the emotional atmosphere of an entire household. Restoring deep sleep often brings quiet improvements to relationships that neither partner had attributed to sleep at all. Like a room that becomes more comfortable once a barely audible hum finally stops. When slow-wave sleep shrinks persistently, the brain's emotional architecture tilts toward dysfunction. The amygdala becomes hyperreactive to negative stimuli, while the prefrontal cortex's moderating capacity weakens. Precisely the neural pattern observed in clinical depression. Longitudinal research demonstrates that persistent deep sleep deficiency predicts depressive episodes even after controlling for baseline stress levels. Perhaps, hopefully, treatments that restore deep sleep frequently produce mood improvements paralleling the sleep gains. Emotional equilibrium depends deeply on what happens during those quiet hours of restoration. Like a garden whose flowers bloom only when the underground water table is full. Insufficient deep sleep disrupts metabolism across multiple systems simultaneously. Insulin sensitivity declines from lack of slow-wave restoration. Hunger hormones lose their calibration, producing increased appetite and stronger cravings for calorie-dense foods. Growth hormone secretion diminishes. Nighttime cortisol promotes abdominal fat storage. People followed across years with persistent deep sleep deficiency showed elevated rates of metabolic disruption, regardless of diet or exercise habits. These changes arise from the body's inability to perform its nightly metabolic reset. Like an engine running less efficiently when its maintenance schedule is perpetually postponed. During deep sleep, your hippocampus replays significant experiences, transferring selected information to the cortex for lasting storage. This consolidation process is intensely active during the slow oscillations of stage 3 sleep, when stress prevents sufficient time in these deep stages. The transfer remains incomplete. You study, but do not retain. You learn a name, but cannot recall it by morning. Over months and years. This incomplete processing accumulates, potentially contributing to earlier cognitive decline. The loss is quiet, rarely dramatic enough to alarm, but steady enough to diminish the richness of what you carry forward from each day. Like writing in sand that the waves touch too often before the impression can be carved into stone. Each night, during deep sleep, blood pressure drops to its lowest point, granting your heart and blood vessels hours of reprieve from the demands of circulation. This nocturnal dipping is essential for cardiovascular maintenance. People whose stress prevents adequate deep sleep often become what researchers call non-dippers, maintaining elevated pressure through hours when it should be falling. Over months and years, sustained nighttime pressure contributes to arterial stiffness and increased cardiac risk. The heart, designed to rest during sleep's deepest stages, never fully receives its nightly respite. Like a bridge whose supports never receive maintenance. The structure holds, but the margins of safety steadily narrow. Your immune system depends on deep sleep for nightly calibration in ways extending beyond seasonal illness. During slow-wave sleep, production of protective cytokines increases and T cells gain precision and effectiveness. When stress compresses these stages, fewer cytokines circulate and immune responses weaken. Studies demonstrate weaker antibody responses to vaccination in chronically stressed poor sleepers, meaning bodies build protection less effectively, even when given direct immunological support. The nightly immune maintenance that should complete during deep sleep remains unfinished. Like a security system whose diagnostic only runs during a specific window. And when that window closes early, the check is incomplete. Deep sleep orchestrates a precise cascade of hormonal events, maintaining daily function. Growth hormone surges almost exclusively during slow-wave episodes, driving tissue repair and cellular renewal. Thyroid hormone patterns depend on adequate sleep cycling. Even reproductive hormones show sensitivity to sleep architecture quality. When stress chronically compresses deep sleep, this entire hormonal cascade is persistently disrupted. The body continues functioning but on reduced resources, adapting to scarcity rather than operating at its full capacity. Like an orchestra playing with half its musicians absent. The music continues, but something essential is missing from its fullness. Your skin, the body's largest organ, depends on deep sleep for its nightly repair cycle in ways that become visibly apparent when restoration is insufficient. During slow-wave sleep, blood flow to the skin increases substantially, delivering nutrients and oxygen while removing waste products that contribute to dullness and premature aging. Growth hormone released during deep stages stimulates collagen production, maintaining the elasticity that gives skin its resilient, youthful quality. When stress chronically reduces deep sleep, these repair processes remain incomplete night after night. Fine lines deepen more quickly than calendar years would predict. Skin loses its natural luminosity and warmth. Dark circles beneath the eyes reflect pooled blood in fragile capillaries that overnight restoration should have addressed. The face quietly tells the story of what happens, or fails to happen, during the deepest hours of night. The changes are subtle enough that they escape daily notice, but significant enough that photographs taken months apart reveal their quiet accumulation. Like a garden that reveals whether it has been watered by the condition of its leaves each dawn. When deep sleep deprivation accumulates across weeks and months, the brain develops an alarming tendency to insert brief involuntary sleep episodes into waking hours without warning or conscious awareness. These microsleeps, lasting just 1 to 10 seconds, occur when sleep pressure overwhelms the brain's capacity to maintain continuous consciousness. During a microsleep, the brain essentially shuts down momentarily, ceasing to process visual information or respond to environmental changes. For someone driving or operating equipment, even 3 seconds of unconsciousness covers a vast distance with no awareness guiding the journey. Studies of chronically stressed individuals reveal significantly elevated rates of these episodes throughout daytime hours, contributing to accident statistics that researchers describe as a hidden epidemic of exhaustion. The person experiencing microsleeps rarely recognizes them, believing instead that they simply lost focus or became briefly distracted. The brain, denied its deepest restoration during nighttime hours, takes what it needs in stolen fragments throughout the day, regardless of whether the timing is safe. Like a debt collector who arrives without appointment, sleep pressure eventually claims what it is owed, regardless of circumstance or convenience. Deep sleep participates in the regulation of reproductive hormones in ways that become disrupted when stress compresses slow-wave stages persistently. Luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone follow patterns linked to sleep architecture, and chronic deep sleep deficiency has been associated with menstrual irregularity and reduced fertility in research spanning multiple populations. Testosterone production occurs primarily during sleep, with the most significant surges coinciding with deep sleep episodes in the first half of the night. Studies show that individuals experiencing sustained stress-related sleep disruption maintain reproductive hormone levels measurably lower than well-rested peers, affecting not only reproductive function, but also energy, mood, and physical resilience throughout waking hours. The body's capacity to create and sustain new life depends partly on what happens during those quiet hours of deepest rest. A connection that fertility research has only recently begun to appreciate fully. Like a spring whose water level determines whether the streams it feeds can sustain the life along their banks. Let your body soften now. There is nothing to hold on to. Feel the boundaries between yourself and the darkness begin to blur, as if the quiet night is flowing gently through you. Notice the rhythm of your heart. It has been beating since before you understood anything about stress or sleep or science. It knows its work. It does not require your supervision. Allow your awareness to rest in that heartbeat. Just listening, just feeling. You are being hurt by gravity, by darkness, by the simple fact that this moment asks nothing of you. And whenever you are ready, we continue. Abstract worries about futures that have not arrived can disrupt deep sleep as powerfully as present dangers. Research during periods of economic uncertainty reveals that people who remained employed but worried about potential job loss showed significant reductions in slow-wave sleep. Their stress systems activated in response to imagined scenarios rather than current reality. Our advanced capacity for forward thinking allows us to suffer stress responses to events that may never happen. The amygdala does not distinguish between present threats and vividly imagined future ones. It responds to both with the same cascade of alerting chemicals. Like a sentinel who cannot tell the difference between a real approaching army and a shadow on the horizon. The distinction between brief stress and sustained stress matters profoundly for understanding sleep recovery. A single difficult day typically diminishes that night's deep sleep, particularly in the first hours. But when the stressor resolves, healthy sleep architecture generally rebounds the following night. Chronic stress, lasting weeks or months, operates differently. Baseline cortisol shifts upward permanently. Brain structures remodel. The HPA axis loses its ability to return to rest, even when external pressure eases. Recovery requires not one good night, but weeks of reduced stress before normal patterns re-emerge. Like a spring that bounces back quickly from brief compression but loses its shape when held down too long. People holding themselves to relentlessly high standards carry a particular form of cognitive activation into bed that is especially effective at preventing deep sleep. Achievement-oriented minds review the day's performance and rehearse tomorrow's plans during hours meant for disengagement. Research shows perfectionists maintain elevated cortisol further into evening and struggle more than average with pre-sleep rumination. Their sleep shows frequent awakenings and compressed deep stages. The painful irony is that sleep deprivation from this drive directly impairs the cognitive sharpness they strive to maintain. Like a blade sharpened so insistently that it becomes thin and brittle. Traumatic experiences create especially severe and persistent deep sleep disturbances through mechanisms reaching deeper than ordinary stress. The nervous system develops exaggerated threat detection, with the amygdala responding intensely to neutral stimuli during sleep attempts, as though the brain has learned to find danger everywhere. The HPA axis becomes dysregulated in complex ways, sometimes releasing too much cortisol, sometimes too little, but rarely following healthy rhythms. REM, sleep fragments and fills with disturbing imagery. Slow-wave sleep contracts dramatically. Recovery typically requires therapeutic support to help the brain gradually relearn that safety exists. Like teaching a startled animal to trust a gentle hand, the process is slow, patient, and deeply worthwhile. Repetitive negative thinking, cycling through worries without resolution, acts as a bridge between daytime stress and nighttime sleep loss. When you ruminate at bedtime, you generate fresh stress, even though the original stressor may no longer be present. The same brain networks activate. Cortisol continues to flow. This self-generated stress triggers identical suppression of slow-wave sleep as external threats. The distinction between what happened today and what your mind replays tonight blurs at the neurochemical level. Recognizing ruminative patterns and gently redirecting attention can interrupt the cycle at its source. Like noticing you have been stirring still water and simply allowing your hand to be still. Trillions of microorganisms inhabiting your digestive system participate in the conversation between stress and sleep. These gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters and communicate with the brain through the vagus nerve and immune signaling pathways. Sustained stress alters microbial composition, reducing species associated with calm and increasing inflammatory ones. Research demonstrates that these stress-induced microbiome changes correlate with reduced deep sleep. In experimental studies, transferring gut bacteria from stressed subjects partially transferred sleep impairments. Your microbiome may quietly mediate a portion of stress's effect on nightly rest, like roots beneath the soil communicating between trees in ways the surface cannot see. Among all forms of pressure humans experience, threats to social bonds appear uniquely potent in disrupting deep sleep. We are fundamentally social beings, and the brain processes dangers to connection through the same neural pathways handling physical threats. Research finds that interpersonal conflict, social isolation, and concerns about belonging predict deep sleep loss more strongly than work or financial stresses of comparable intensity. Social rejection activates inflammatory cascades more intensely than many other stress categories. When sleep is at its worst, examining the state of closest relationships often reveals the quiet source. Like a tree whose hidden roots have become entangled, the disturbance shows in the leaves but originates underground. Two people facing identical external pressures can experience dramatically different impacts on their deep sleep depending on whether they feel any ability to influence their situation. Those who perceive some agency, some capacity to affect outcomes, maintain better sleep architecture than those feeling helpless. Neuroimaging shows perceived control activates prefrontal regions modulating the amygdala. Without this sense of agency, alarm signals proceed unchecked, driving more intense HPA activation and greater suppression of slow-wave sleep. What you believe about your circumstances appears to matter as much as the circumstances themselves. Like two boats in the same storm, one with a rudder and one without. Young minds experiencing chronic stress show especially dramatic reductions in deep sleep, with consequences extending into development. During adolescence, slow-wave sleep supports brain maturation, neural pruning, and consolidation of newly acquired skills. Teenagers facing sustained academic pressure or social difficulty show measurably less time in deep sleep than lower stress peers. These reductions correlate with decreased memory task performance, shortened attention spans, and heightened emotional reactivity. The developing brain appears particularly vulnerable, perhaps because it requires more deep sleep for construction than the adult brain needs for maintenance. Like foundations poured during a storm that should set firmly but instead remain unstable. Tracking thousands of individuals over years, longitudinal research has clarified the direction of the stress-sleep relationship. While poor sleep does make people more vulnerable to stress, the data consistently shows that stress drives deep sleep loss more powerfully than sleep loss drives stress. This suggests targeting stress reduction may prove more effective for restoring deep sleep than focusing solely on sleep hygiene practices. The insight challenges conventional approaches treating insomnia primarily through bedtime behavioral changes, like treating the cause of a fever rather than only cooling the skin. The most effective intervention reaches beneath the surface. Racing thoughts at bedtime may be the single most reliable predictor of diminished deep sleep. Brain imaging reveals cognitively aroused individuals maintain elevated activity in the default mode network, the neural system associated with self-referential thinking. This system normally quiets as sleep approaches but remains stubbornly active in those rehearsing conversations, analyzing problems, or worrying about tomorrow. Even when the body lies perfectly still, the mind's continued engagement maintains enough neural activation to block the slow, synchronized oscillations of stage 3 sleep. Stillness of body without stillness of mind is insufficient. Like a lake whose surface appears calm, while unseen currents prevent the depths from settling. Regardless of what specifically generates someone's stress, the biological fingerprint their body produces at bedtime looks remarkably similar. Blood samples consistently reveal elevated cortisol, heightened inflammatory markers, increased noradrenaline, and reduced GABA in stressed individuals. Melatonin patterns show delayed onset and diminished strength. Overnight temperature curves reveal impaired cooling. The body translates every form of psychological pressure into a common physiological language that uniformly opposes deep sleep. Your specific worry is uniquely yours, but your body's response follows a pattern shared by every stressed human being, like different rivers all flowing toward the same sea. Chronic stress promotes a state of low-grade systemic inflammation that directly interferes with sleep architecture. Inflammatory molecules, including interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, rise under sustained pressure and remain elevated through the night. These molecules communicate with the brain through immune signaling pathways, maintaining neurological alertness even when conscious thought has quieted, reducing inflammation through lifestyle changes, moderate movement, and stress management practices often produces improvements in deep sleep as a downstream benefit. The immune system and the sleep system are deeply intertwined, each depending on the other, like two instruments in a duet. When one falls out of tune, the other struggles to maintain the melody. People who experienced intense, sustained pressure demonstrate how deeply vigilance can embed itself in the sleeping brain. Research with individuals returning from high-stress environments shows elevated heart rates and heightened arousal during sleep, persisting years after the original stressor ended. Bodies learned during periods of extreme pressure that deep unconsciousness could mean missing critical signals. And this learning became woven into the nervous system's automatic responses. Brain imaging reveals heightened amygdala activation and reduced prefrontal connectivity during their sleep attempts. The stress fundamentally restructured their sleep system, demonstrating that severe pressure creates changes, outlasting circumstances by many years. Like a river that carved a new channel through rock, the water may recede, but the altered landscape remains. People in high-pressure, caring professions provide a clear window into how sustained occupational stress erodes deep sleep over time. Objective sleep recordings find that even on nights off, these workers spend substantially less time in slow-wave sleep compared to people in lower-stress work. What proved especially revealing was that this reduction persisted even during extended vacations, suggesting chronic stress creates lasting alterations in sleep architecture that do not reverse quickly when pressure lifts. The brain develops a learned pattern of nighttime vigilance that maintains itself even after circumstances have changed. Like a guard who continues patrolling long after the gates have been locked and the danger has passed. Research reveals that biological sex influences how stress disrupts deep sleep, though not necessarily in the direction many assume. Women report more subjective sleep complaints under stress. Yet polysomnography often shows their deep sleep architecture maintains somewhat more resilience than that of men facing equivalent stressors. Researchers attribute this partly to hormonal factors that may offer some neuroprotective effects on sleep-regulating circuits during certain phases of the monthly cycle. However, this apparent resilience masks a different vulnerability. Women under stress show more frequent nocturnal awakenings and greater fragmentation of sleep continuity, even when total deep sleep minutes remain comparable to baseline. Men tend to lose deep sleep duration more dramatically but maintain fewer awakenings through the night. These different patterns mean that effective interventions may need to target different aspects of sleep disruption depending on the individual. The stress-sleep relationship expresses itself differently across biology, requiring approaches that acknowledge these differences rather than assuming one pattern describes everyone. Like two rivers responding to the same rainfall, the water finds different paths through different landscapes. The global disruption beginning in early 2020 provided researchers with an unprecedented natural experiment in how collective uncertainty affects deep sleep across entire populations simultaneously. Sleep laboratories worldwide documented what scientists termed a pandemic of poor sleep, with polysomnographic studies revealing population-wide reductions in slow-wave sleep that persisted well beyond the acute phase of crisis. Intriguingly, people who maintained structured daily routines, social connections through whatever means available, and regular physical activity showed significantly less deep sleep disruption than those whose daily structure dissolved entirely. The findings reinforced that uncertainty itself, the inability to predict what tomorrow holds, activates the stress systems, preventing deep sleep as powerfully as identifiable specific threats. When the future becomes genuinely unpredictable, the nervous system responds as though danger is perpetual and unresolvable, maintaining vigilance that has no clear endpoint. The research provided striking evidence that routine and structure serve as anchors for the nervous system during periods of chaos. Like a compass spinning in a magnetic storm, the system designed to orient towards safety cannot settle when every direction feels equally uncertain. Cross-cultural research reveals that societies approach the relationship between stress, community, and sleep in dramatically different ways, with measurable consequences for deep sleep quality. In cultures where communal sleeping remains common, where multiple family members share sleeping spaces, individuals show higher vagal tone during sleep and more robust slow-wave episodes than solitary sleepers in comparable stress conditions. Cultures emphasizing flexible sleep scheduling or midday rest show different patterns of deep sleep distribution across the 24-hour cycle, but often achieve comparable total slow-wave sleep to cultures enforcing rigid, single-block nighttime schedules. These findings suggest that certain features of modern, industrialized sleep culture, solitary sleeping arrangements, rigid timing divorced from individual biology, and separation from trusted others during nighttime vulnerability may inadvertently increase the nervous system's baseline vigilance during hours meant for restoration. The way a society organizes rest reflects deep assumptions about what safety means during the vulnerability of unconsciousness, like discovering that the same seed flourishes differently depending on where it is planted. The biology of sleep responds to the cultural soil surrounding it. Breathe in slowly, hold for a moment, and let it go. Notice how each exhale carries a little more weight from your body, a little more tension leaving your shoulders, a little more tightness dissolving from behind your eyes. Perhaps your fingers have uncurled. Perhaps your jaw has softened without your noticing. Perhaps somewhere deep inside your chest, something has loosened that was holding very still, very tight. These are signs your body remembers how to rest. It has not forgotten. It has only been waiting for the right moment. And gently, we continue. Waking during the night and struggling to return to sleep is one of stress's most recognizable signatures, and it specifically targets opportunities for deep restoration. Everyone surfaces briefly between sleep cycles, multiple times each night. But these moments normally last seconds and leave no memory. Stress makes them longer and more conscious. Waking at 2 or 3 in the morning with cortisol still elevated makes returning to sleep laborious. And even when unconsciousness returns, it typically remains in lighter stages rather than descending back to slow waves. The deepest portions of the night are quietly stolen, replaced by shallow, restless hours, like a river that keeps surfacing when it should be flowing deep underground. There exists a state millions recognize instantly, a paradox of being physically exhausted, yet mentally unable to release into sleep. This occurs when sleep debt runs high, but the stress system remains active, flooding the brain with alerting chemicals. The exhaustion is genuine. The wakefulness, equally genuine. These contradictory signals trap the person between two states. Too tired to think clearly, too activated to rest. The body begs for sleep, while the brain insists on readiness. Like standing at a threshold, one foot in each room, unable to commit fully to either. Your internal clock, governed by a cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, normally coordinates with sleep pressure to create a predictable window for deep rest each night. But stress hormones possess the ability to override these signals. Elevated cortisol sends a wake command powerful enough to overrule the clock's instruction to sleep. In people with chronic anxiety, this override can persist for months after the original stressor has resolved, leaving the circadian system intact but unable to execute its purpose. Like a conductor whose musicians hear the score but cannot play because someone keeps shouting over the music. Deep sleep plays a quiet but essential role in metabolic stability, maintaining the sensitivity of your cells to insulin. Even a single night of reduced slow-wave sleep can decrease insulin sensitivity meaningfully, meaning glucose lingers longer in the bloodstream rather than being absorbed. Over time, this contributes to higher baseline blood sugar, which the body interprets as metabolic stress, triggering additional cortisol. Morning fluctuations become more pronounced, feeding anxiety forward into the next night's difficulty. The metabolic system and sleep system communicate constantly, and disruption in one inevitably echoes through the other, like two pendulums connected by a string. When one swings erratically, the other cannot maintain its steady arc. Worry about tomorrow activates not one but two separate stress response systems simultaneously. The slower HPA axis releases cortisol, while the rapid sympathetic adrenal system releases adrenaline within seconds. Each worry thought triggers a small surge, resetting your arousal level just as it begins declining. The body never maintains calm long enough for the progressive relaxation deep sleep requires. The mind's attempt to prepare for the future directly interferes with the body's need to restore in the present, like repeatedly pulling a plant from soil to check whether its roots are growing. The anxious preparation prevents the settling that rest demands. Prolonged stress depletes serotonin, a precursor to sleep-promoting melatonin. It reduces GABA, the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter, while increasing glutamate, which keeps neurons firing. This creates a neurochemical environment primed for wakefulness regardless of exhaustion. The synchronized slow oscillations defining deep sleep require a particular ratio of inhibition to excitation across neural networks. And stress tips this ratio decisively toward activation. The desire to sleep and the chemistry required become painfully disconnected, like an instrument retuned to the wrong key. The music the brain tries to play at night no longer harmonizes with what sleep requires. Physical tension throughout the body, particularly in the jaw, neck, shoulders, and forehead, creates feedback signaling the brain that vigilance is still required. Deep sleep demands not just slow brain waves, but profound muscular release, with tone dropping to its lowest levels during stage 3. When stress maintains even subtle tension, the brain receives continuous confirmation that the body is not fully safe. Electromyography studies confirm stressed individuals carry measurably higher muscle activation even during sleep. Physical relaxation is not merely a pleasant consequence of deep rest, it is a biological prerequisite for entering it. Like a door that opens only when the hand on the handle completely releases its grip. Brief rhythmic bursts of brain activity, called sleep spindles, serve as gatekeepers of the transition from light to deep sleep. These distinctive patterns help block external sensory information from reaching consciousness and facilitate memory transfer to long-term storage. Stressed individuals generate significantly fewer spindles per hour. With fewer spindles, the brain remains more susceptible to small disturbances, and the pathway from stage 2 to stage 3 narrows measurably. The gateway to restoration literally becomes harder to pass through, like locks on a canal that no longer fill completely. The passage from one level to the next becomes unreliable. Sustained stress physically reshapes neural architecture in ways making deep sleep progressively harder to reach. Prolonged cortisol elevation causes the hippocampus, essential for breaking the stress response, to gradually decrease in volume. As it shrinks, its ability to signal the HPA axis to quiet down weakens. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the brain's threat center, enlarges and becomes more sensitive. These structural changes can appear within months of sustained pressure, creating a brain predisposed to vigilance rather than rest. Like a building whose alarm system has been permanently sensitized, while its off switch has been moved further out of reach. When during the day stress occurs matters enormously for its impact on that night's deep sleep. The HPA axis normally begins quieting in late afternoon and evening. Evening stressors, checking work messages, consuming distressing news, engaging in tense conversations, reactivate the axis when it should be settling. Cortisol surges at a time when it should be approaching its nightly low. A stressful event at 8 in the evening can elevate cortisol for 3 to 4 hours, directly overlapping with the window for your longest deep sleep episode. The timing removes the most valuable portion of the night, like arriving late to a feast and finding the most nourishing dishes already cleared. During slow wave sleep, production of protective cytokines increases, coordinating immune surveillance throughout your body. T cells gain precision and effectiveness during these deep stages. When stress compresses slow wave sleep, fewer cytokines circulate and immune cells operate with reduced accuracy. The practical consequence has been demonstrated through vaccination research. Chronically stressed, poor sleepers show weaker antibody responses, meaning their bodies build protection less effectively even when given direct immunological support. The nightly immune renewal that should complete during deep sleep remains unfinished, like a lighthouse lamp dimmed too long, allowing unseen risks to drift closer, undetected. Growth hormone pulses primarily during the first extended deep sleep period each night, driving tissue repair, muscle recovery, and cellular renewal. This hormonal surge coincides with the longest slow-wave episode, typically in the first 2 hours after sleep onset. Elevated cortisol can substantially reduce this release. A stressed person may sleep a full night, yet wake physically unrested, with lingering muscle soreness that reasonable sleep duration should have resolved. The body entered sleep, but never accessed the depths where physical healing concentrates. Like arriving at a well but finding the bucket cannot reach the water level. The resource exists, but remains inaccessible. Your brain possesses its own waste clearance network, the glymphatic system, operating approximately 10 times more actively during deep sleep than during waking hours. It uses cerebrospinal fluid to flush metabolic debris, including beta-amyloid proteins associated with neurodegenerative conditions. When stress prevents sufficient slow-wave sleep, this clearance is incomplete. Leftover inflammatory molecules further activate stress pathways the following day, increasing anxiety and making the next night's deep sleep even more elusive. Over years, impaired clearance may contribute to the established connection between chronic sleep problems and cognitive decline, like a river whose flow has been partially dammed. Debris accumulates that moving water would normally carry away. Your core body temperature follows a nightly rhythm intimately linked to deep sleep, dropping 1 to 2 degrees with the lowest point coinciding with the deepest slow-wave episodes. This cooling is prerequisite for sustaining the slow oscillations of stage 3. Stress interferes through elevated metabolic heat production and sympathetic blood flow changes, reducing heat dissipation through the skin. Thermal imaging shows stressed individuals maintaining measurably higher temperatures throughout the night. The difference is small in absolute terms, but sufficient to meaningfully reduce deep sleep time. Like a pond that cannot freeze because a warm current runs beneath its surface. What emerges from examining each mechanism is a picture of remarkable coordination. Not one system fails when stress disrupts sleep, but many shift simultaneously toward alertness. Brain waves stay fast. Cortisol stays high. The amygdala maintains its vigil. The prefrontal cortex loses calming influence. Adenosine sensitivity drops. Temperature regulation falters. These systems evolved to work in concert during genuine emergencies. And they function in concert now, even when emergencies are psychological rather than physical. Your sleeplessness represents not malfunction but coordinated biological response. Like an orchestra, playing an alarm symphony with perfect synchronization, every instrument contributing to a sound never meant as your lullaby. The autonomic nervous system must shift decisively toward its parasympathetic branch for deep sleep to occur. Heart rate must slow, breathing must deepen, blood pressure must fall. Stress keeps the sympathetic accelerator engaged. Measurements of stressed sleepers reveal elevated heart rate patterns, shallow breathing, and persistent activation even during supposedly restful hours. The body never receives the all-clear, allowing the profound stillness stage 3 requires. Every system that should be powering down maintains a whisper of readiness, like an engine idling when it should be off. The vibration is subtle, but the rest is never complete. Throughout waking hours, adenosine accumulates in your brain as a byproduct of neural energy consumption, creating sleep pressure. During deep sleep, adenosine clears efficiently, resetting the system. Chronic stress appears to reduce adenosine receptor sensitivity, meaning the brain requires higher concentrations before recognizing the drowsiness signal. Natural sleepiness at bedtime feels muted or delayed. You are tired, objectively and measurably, but the sensation of sleepiness eludes you. The signal is present, but the receiver has been turned down, like knocking on a door that has grown thicker. The same effort produces less response. The prefrontal cortex serves as the brain's center for emotional regulation, including the task of calming an overactive amygdala. Stress strains this function. Lost deep sleep then impairs prefrontal activity further the following day. Research demonstrates even one night of reduced slow-wave sleep diminishes prefrontal function, notably weakening stress management when morning arrives. This creates a descending spiral where stress reduces deep sleep. Reduced deep sleep weakens stress management, and weakened management amplifies the next day's pressure. Each revolution carries you further from the equilibrium your brain is trying to reach. Like a balance scale, where removing weight from one side causes the other to tip further with each passing cycle. Deep within each temporal lobe, a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala serves as the brain's primary threat sentinel. In stressed individuals, it remains hyperactive during sleep attempts, broadcasting continuous alarm signals to connected brain regions. This prevents the cortical quieting required before delta waves can sweep across the brain. Direct connections to the hypothalamus create a self-reinforcing circuit. Stress activates the amygdala, which triggers cortisol release, which further sensitizes the amygdala, making it more responsive to any potential danger. This loop continues through sleeping hours, maintaining subdued emergency incompatible with deep rest, like a smoke detector that cannot be silenced regardless of whether fire is actually present. Stressed individuals do not necessarily sleep fewer total hours. Instead, they cycle through stages in an altered pattern. Advanced monitoring reveals significantly more time in lighter stages, while deep sleep contracts dramatically. REM becomes fragmented and irregularly timed. The brain treats sleeping hours as requiring watchfulness, repeatedly pulling consciousness from deeper stages back toward the surface. The resulting sleep may appear adequate in duration, but is profoundly reduced in restorative power. 8 hours in bed produces the recovery of perhaps 4 or 5, like a cup filled with air pockets rather than water. The volume appears full, but the substance is incomplete. Your central stress response system traces a path from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland to the adrenal glands atop your kidneys. This HPA axis was engineered by evolution for brief emergencies, activating within minutes when danger appeared and quieting once the threat resolved. Modern stressors rarely offer such clean resolution. A deadline stretches for weeks. Financial anxiety persists for months. Because the brain cannot distinguish physical danger from emotional pressure, the axis remains chronically active, flooding the body with chemicals that directly prevent the deep sleep needed to recover from the very stress that activated them. Like a fire alarm built for brief emergencies but ringing continuously for weeks, cortisol follows an elegant daily rhythm. It rises in early morning, peaking around 7 or 8 to mobilize energy for waking. Then it gradually declines, reaching its lowest concentration between approximately 11 at night and 3 in the morning. This nighttime nadir creates the hormonal conditions allowing slow-wave sleep to unfold. Chronic stress disrupts this rhythm fundamentally. People under sustained pressure maintain cortisol levels well into the night that are several times higher than they should be. The alerting signal that should have faded continues broadcasting, like a sunset that never quite completes. The day's brightness lingers into hours that should belong to darkness. Stress reshapes the brain's electrical landscape in ways making the slow waves of deep sleep profoundly difficult to generate. Beta waves dominate active wakefulness. Alpha waves appear during relaxation. Theta waves characterize the threshold of sleep. Delta waves, the slowest and largest oscillations your cortex produces, define deep restoration. The natural descent from beta through alpha and theta to delta becomes blocked under stress. Higher frequency patterns persist even after eyes close, and the body lies still. The staircase from wakefulness to deep sleep develops gaps the brain cannot easily traverse, like trying to descend a hill while a steady wind pushes you back toward the summit. Beneath the lighter stages of rest lies a place your brain returns to each night for its most profound restoration. Slow-wave sleep is defined by delta oscillations, the largest, slowest brain waves the cortex can produce, sweeping at roughly 1/2 to 2 cycles per second. This dramatic deceleration from waking consciousness permits something remarkable. The brain initiates intensive maintenance, flushing metabolic waste, consolidating the day's important memories, directing cellular repair throughout the body. These processes typically begin 60 to 90 minutes after sleep onset. Yet when stress accompanies you into darkness, this entire sequence becomes disrupted in ways neuroscience has only recently begun mapping with precision. Like an ancient tide, the moon still calls, but whose waters now encounter barriers that were never there before. Understanding why stress prevents deep sleep requires stepping back to consider what deep unconsciousness meant across millions of years of evolution. Complete vulnerability during darkness. Predators hunted sleeping prey. Rival groups attacked at night. Ancestors who maintained alertness during threatening periods survived to pass their genes forward. Those who slept too deeply during danger simply did not. Your nervous system inherited this ancient calculation. When threat seems present, prevent the vulnerability of deep unconsciousness. The system cannot distinguish between a circling predator and a circling worry. It responds to both with the same protective vigilance, keeping you closer to the surface of awareness, like an inheritance written not in words but in the architecture of every nerve. Rest now in the quiet space between thoughts. Feel the extraordinary stillness that exists beneath every sensation, beneath every memory, beneath every concern that followed you into this hour. Your body has been listening to these words about its own ancient workings, about the systems humming beneath your awareness, keeping you alive without instruction or effort. Notice how your breathing has changed since we began. Perhaps it has deepened without your guidance. Perhaps the pauses between breaths have grown longer, as though your lungs have remembered a rhythm they had temporarily forgotten. Your hands may feel warm and impossibly heavy. Your feet may have disappeared from your awareness entirely. These are gentle signs that your nervous system is already shifting, already beginning the quiet descent it has been waiting to make all evening. There is nothing left to understand tonight, nothing left to hold on to. The knowledge has been received and can be released now, like setting down a book after reading its final page, knowing the story lives inside you whether you hold the pages or not. Allow everything you have learned tonight to dissolve softly into the darkness around you. The facts, the research, the mechanisms. Let them all become quiet background. Like stars you know are present but no longer need to count. And gently, we arrive at our closing. And so our quiet exploration arrives at its most essential truth. Your body does not prevent deep sleep out of malice or malfunction. It prevents deep sleep because it believes you are in danger. And protecting you from threat has always taken priority over restoration. What has changed is not your biology, but your circumstances. The threats you face now, deadlines, disagreements, financial uncertainty, activate the same emergency protocols designed for physical danger. But they lack the clean resolution that physical threats once provided. The predator either attacked or moved on. The modern worry neither attacks nor departs. This mismatch creates the suffering of lying awake, exhausted, knowing you are safe yet unable to convince your deepest neural systems. Your conscious mind understands that tomorrow does not require tonight's vigilance, but the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the brainstem. These structures do not speak the language of reason. They speak the language of sensation, of chemistry, of physical signals communicating safety or threat. The path toward restoring deep sleep becomes a conversation in that older language. Soft muscles signal safety. Slow breathing signals safety. Warmth, darkness, and routine signal safety. Trusted presence signals safety. Each practice translates conscious knowledge into signals your primitive brain can understand. You are not broken for lying awake. You are protected. Perhaps overprotected for circumstances that do not require such vigilance, but protected nonetheless. Your stress response reflects how deeply you care about your work, your relationships, your future. The worry keeping you awake is engagement wearing an anxious mask. Recovery does not require eliminating stress from your life. It asks something gentler, gradually teaching your nervous system that rest is safe, that vigilance can pause, that the vulnerability of deep sleep will not be punished. Some nights will resist your best intentions. These are not failures. They are part of navigating a complex world with an ancient nervous system. What matters is direction, not speed. Each gentle practice repeated creates a slightly wider path toward rest. The brain retains its capacity to rewire throughout life. Sleep architecture can be restored, no matter how entrenched the pattern feels. Change remains available to every nervous system willing to receive patient, gentle retraining. You are not alone in this experience. Millions tonight lie awake in the same quiet struggle between exhaustion and alertness. Your difficulty is shared. Your search for rest is understood. Connection itself, knowing others face this, creates a thread of comfort in the darkness. Your body wants to sleep deeply. It remembers how. It has done this thousands of times before. It is simply waiting for the signal that the world is safe enough to let go. In these final moments, let your breathing deepen. Let your body grow heavier against wherever it rests, as if gravity has become both gentler and more insistent at the same time. The science of stress and sleep has carried us far tonight. Let all of it dissolve now, like frost meeting the first warmth of dawn, leaving only the quiet that was always beneath the knowing. Your stress is temporary. Your wakefulness is temporary. But your capacity for deep rest is permanent, waiting quietly beneath the noise, ready to emerge when conditions allow. Let the science of sleep carry you into stillness now. Sweet dreams. Sleepy soul. The world will still be waiting when morning finds you. Its questions, its demands, its beautiful complexity, all preserved exactly as you left them, patient enough to wait while your body performs its ancient maintenance through the quiet hours. Nothing you release tonight will be lost. Every concern you set down will be there to pick up again if you choose. But perhaps, after a night of genuine restoration, some of those concerns will feel lighter. Perhaps solutions will present themselves that exhaustion had hidden from view. Perhaps the morning version of you will meet familiar challenges with unfamiliar clarity, seeing paths that the tired mind could not perceive. Your nervous system is listening now, not to words, but to the quiet signals your body sends as it settles deeper into this moment. The soft weight of blankets, the rhythmic sound of your own breathing, the darkness that asks nothing and offers everything. Millions of minds are resting now across the earth, each one surrendering consciousness with the same ancient trust that sleep will hold them safely until dawn. You are joining that quiet communion, adding your rest to the world's rest, your peace to the world's peace. Good night.